YouTube drawing tutorials will ruin you for two reasons. The first, verisimilitude is a losing proposition. The overwhelming majority of YouTube drawing instruction focuses on naturalism, the idea that the artist is a kind of camera. In this model, the closer the drawing is to a photographic image, the more successful the drawing is deemed to be. Now, even at its best, ultimately, YouTube teaches an uninteresting model of art. The second reason YouTube drawing tutorials will ruin you is because they create a psychological asymptote. Tutorials create an unwinnable game. To explain in simple English, think of the development of your work as being represented by a line that approaches a point. The point represents perfection. So as your work approaches perfection, that point slides away from you. So the more you try to make your work look like the tutorial, the further your work slips from the target. The closer you look at the tutorial, or the closer you look at your influences, the further the distance becomes between what you've created and your goal. Now, thinking about your work in these two ways, the ways that are taught on YouTube, will ruin you. The solution lies in your thinking. You can use YouTube if you make a decision. In order to understand what to do instead, let's look at the story of Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon in 49 BCE. In 49 BCE, Julius Caesar made a decision to cross the Rubicon in defiance of the Roman Senate. This irrevocable decision put him on an inexorable path towards civil war. Now, what does this have to do with art, design, music, literature, poetry, or writing? Well, let's take a look at the structure of the allegory of the crossing of the Rubicon. The old life, represented currently by the way you're trying to copy nature and trying to make others work, is before crossing the Rubicon. It represents safety, predictability, and the sameness of your work. Now, the point is to make a choice. And over the course of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what choice to make as this video unfolds. So the difficult choice represents crossing of the Rubicon, the bold, risky decision that signifies a commitment to a new path. Now, this decision should and will, in fact, lead you to a kind of internal civil war, a challenging, turbulent period of growth and struggle in your work. That's if in fact, you do it correctly. So this decision, if done properly, will lead you to a new life where you are figuratively, in a way, the emperor of your own domain. Now, it's important to point out that this new phase of life and this new phase of your work life will have its own set of challenges and rewards emerging from the crucible of conflict and change. So specifically, what decision am I referring to, and what decision should you make? There is a moment of decision in the development of every kind of artist, musician, designer, painter, writer, or poet, where the individual must choose to let go completely of the desire to make the work like their influences. In that moment, you let go and you turn your focus inward and you let your decision-making reign supreme with no reference material. So let's take a look at an example from my own work. So on the right, what we see here are naturalistic drawings. And this is the idea that I was referring to previously, where a drawing or a painting functions almost like photography. It records the natural world. And what I'm suggesting is that at a point in every artist's life, figuratively, they need to make a decision to walk away from this idea. Now, this decision to walk away from this model will make 99% of the material on YouTube irrelevant. So if we look at the blue drawings here, what I'm suggesting that you do is I'm suggesting that you draw without reference material, that you focus only on making a drawing look good. And if, as an example, if you want to draw a face, you draw the face exactly as it comes off of your hand and as it comes to your mind. Draw what immediately comes off of the hand and what the eye tells you looks good. In this process, you should have zero concern for correctness. Here is a digital version of that same process. And so what I'm advocating is that you let the way that you draw become unencumbered by expectation and unencumbered by a kind of target. When you draw, you listen to the drawing. You don't try to control the drawing. Now, I will say this 3 times. The point behind this video is not to draw like me. When I show the blue drawings, I am not suggesting that that is the correct way to draw. I'm talking about a deep structure. The important point is for you to draw like you and to let go of chasing, tutorials and to let go of chasing your influences. And finally, let's address the elephant in the room, the paradox that lies at the heart of education. G.K. Chesterton said, "For there are two kinds of paradoxes. They are not so much the good and the bad, nor even the true and the false. Rather, there are the fruitful and the barren, the paradoxes which produce life and the paradoxes that merely announce death." Nearly all modern paradoxes merely announce death. So clearly, you can see in my own work a concern for the ability to draw in a traditional sense. And while the number of excellent examples of resources to learn how to draw traditionally there on YouTube are few in number, they in fact exist. And here are but a few of them: James Gurney, Ben Lestenhauer, Proko, and Alex Tavares. The point being that these are the exceptions rather than the rule, and that 99% of YouTube involves the two problems that I suggested before from a learning perspective, which is verisimilitude in art is a losing proposition. And then the undue influence of other artists and models that we are trying to achieve creates a psychologically losing condition of the asymptote. So this begs the paradoxical question of, should you learn to draw traditionally? Absolutely. But if you leave it there, your work will look exactly like everyone else's. And so here, aren't I the same person who advocated copying in the last episode? Yes, in fact, that's true. So do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes, Song of Myself 51 by Walt Whitman. And then also, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. These are not defenses on my part. They are exhortations to you to navigate the paradox.